This is Generation Space, the official podcast of Air Force Space Command.
What's going on, everybody? I'm Master Sergeant Dave Salinitri, and welcome to another episode of Generation Space. We're here at Lockheed Martin, right outside Denver, Colorado, and we are filming our episode 3 of our GPS series. So without further ado, sir, if you want to introduce yourself.
Sure, thanks, Sal. I'm Captain Brian Goodman. I'm an Air Force Education with Industry Fellow, working here at Lockheed Martin Space and their space protection programs. So the whole point of that program is to embed an Air Force officer in with industry so we can learn some best practices and see how the industry builds and sustains and provides operational equipment to the warfighter so that we can be better tacticians in the future.
Nice, and you get to wear this for a year, huh?
I do, yeah. No uniforms. It's business casual, so I like it.
Rough life. Someone's got to do it.
Yeah, amen.
What's going on, sir?
Hi, I'm Jonathan Caldwell. I'm the Vice President for Navigation Systems here at Lockheed Martin Space. And basically that's a fancy way of saying that I get the blessing of leading the teams who help build GPS-3 space and ground systems and assist the warfighter in operating the systems every day.
That's awesome. And you have some a little bit of Air Force blood in you, too. Is that right? A little bit of space blood, too?
Yeah, no, I'm an Air Force brat, and I was born and raised Air Force out of Kirtland, and then actually got my start in space industry being at Patrick Air Force Base, and my dad getting me out onto the range and getting to watch a Titan launch and a space shuttle launch up close and personal. And that got me all fired up and jazzed about space, and started a kind of a long journey that let me see just a bigger part of space, that it's about the mission, not just about the launch.
Yeah, and look at you now. That's awesome.
No, it's really fun.
That's cool. So, we're this could be airing in July. So hopefully at that point we're just a couple of weeks away from GPS 3 SV2 going up. Talk to me a little bit about kind of like, in a nutshell, SV2. I can't speak.
You got it.
There we go. That's the one. I'm a simple man from New Jersey, But talk to me a little bit about the program and like how, why is this good? Why did we even need this? Because my GPS, it works good all the time. Why do we need this? Not just looking today, but into the future.
Yeah, so it's going to be really exciting when Magellan launches here in a couple of days.
It's called Magellan?
Magellan, yeah. That'll make it easier than SVO2.
There you go.
Get out of the...
I like it.
out of the lingo. This third generation of GPS is taking and building on the prior generations. We're bringing more power, more signal when you need it the most. We're bringing more jamming and spoofing resistance. The world is not as peaceful as it used to be, and there's a lot of folks out there who would like to take away GPS from the folks who are using it. And then this system is built to last longer. GPS has become ingrained in everyone's life every day. And so you want these assets to last, right? They've got to do their job, not just for the warfighter, but look around us. Folks in our lives every day are using GPS in everything they do. From going out and finding your ride,
a little Uber,
going to the gas station, buying your gas on your credit card, but everything these days, picking up your cell phone and making a cell phone call, that uses a GPS signal. So everybody's using it.
So what do you think is the highlight, the standout, the thing that you're most proud of what you've seen? Because, you already launched GPS 3 in December. So what has been like the thing that you're most proud of so far of this program?
After years of a lot of men and women coming together and just putting a ton of work and craftsmanship and dedication into making this system come to life, seeing it get up on orbit, with a lot of satellites, your mission is kind of quiet. The data comes down to some ground station or goes to some organization, and you don't really hear about it. GPS, you're on the public stage. Everybody can see how you're performing. There's no hiding. And so getting those first reports back from, JPL or some of the, Stanfords or heck, even Europe, we had universities chiming in and saying, hey, have you seen the performance of this first GPS 3 vehicle? Wow, this is amazing. This is everything they promised.
Wow.
And so it's been really gratifying. The team is jazzed. We're pumped about getting that first vehicle in the mission.
That's awesome. And now Captain Goodman. So it's so cool to see you in this, wearing that, not this right now. I know in a couple of weeks you'll be putting this back on. But so getting to spend, was it a year or 11 months or 10 months out here?
So it was a 10-month program, yeah.
So getting to spend 10 months out here, I'm sure just there are things you've learned. Talk to me a little bit about what you've learned. Anything of how the Air Force is going to be able to, maybe things that might help you as an airman, as a space operator, be able to better, understand how the pieces of the puzzle kind of fit together. To, will the GPS-3? How do you think Bill Belichick and the Red Sox are going to be able to use that to help them cheat more? I mean, just kidding. How do you think? What are your thoughts on just kind of connecting the dots on all this?
Great. Yeah. So as a big Boston sports fan, I take great offense to the whole cheating thing. So I don't want to dominate the podcast with that. So we'll just stick to the.
We'll save that for that with General Shaw when he gets on there.
Yeah. Amen. So one of the great things about this program is I think the paradigm as it exists is that there are operators who utilize a system or utilize a piece of technology, and there are fine professionals in industry that build the technology, but there's an intermediary there in between the operators and the engineers, which is the acquirers. And these guys are smart, capable, solid professionals, but a lot of times the messaging, or a lot of times the conversations that of benefit that could be had between the engineers and the operators are missed. So then one of the great things about this EWI program is the opportunity for me as an operator and a user of equipment, not just to live at the tail end of the whip, but to speak to engineers and speak to the guys that built this stuff, so I can come up with better tactics and come up with better techniques and better ways to utilize a capability that I'm provided to produce some warfighting effect. And so building those connections, making those relationships, and seeing how the processes work from the industrial perspective, I think paid big dividends for me as a space operator.
I mean, it's got to be even cool kind of connecting dots. I mean, just earlier we got to go for a little tour on the production line, the floor. And first, let me say, when I think of production floor, that's not when I think. I mean, that looked good. That looked really cool. But I'm sure even for space operators, just to kind of take a walk through there. I know you were saying there was folks from the 50th who came out, and they actually got to take that tour, the 50th Space Wing. They actually got to take that tour and be able to understand the things that they fly. They don't actually ever get to see it, hardly. But that was an opportunity where they actually got to see it. And talk to me a little bit about that production floor, because that was just really impressive. Even the fact that how it was birthed and created.
Yeah, it was, I'll just echo that. It was super important for us to have those airmen down here on the floor. Most of the folks who work on the floor and who work in the engineering have friends and family who are warfighters. And so being able to bring folks down who are actually doing the mission is a great connection for us. It gets us jazzed and energized. This production floor, this entire building was originally built back in the mid-1950s to produce intercontinental ballistic missiles. And it saw more than 50 years worth of production of rockets. And then things changed. Rocket production has become more industrialized. There are other folks getting in the business. So we took and transformed this facility to build GPS satellites. And, we did that by going out and working with industries like the auto manufacturing industry and our own fighter manufacturing industry to take those production line lessons learned. And then we came back and we modeled it up all in virtual reality. And we let technicians and engineers all get together and bang against each other and get great ideas. And then we built the production line that you see today. And it looks a lot like any other production line. Like small parts come in one end, satellites go out the other end. And in between is an amazing orchestration of technology, virtual reality, digital work instructions, drawings. We're using additive manufacturing on the floor today even.
Right.
So we're doing just about everything that you can think of that's modern and high tech to build these satellites.
Additive manufacturing, I mean, that's a fancy way of saying 3D printing?
We're just 3D printing.
Yeah, no big deal.
Yep.
Well, one of the things that impressed me, though, too, on that floor is I was looking around the average age of the folks that are, your employees I saw, I mean, they were, a lot of them were, I'm going to say mid upper 20s, maybe low 30s. Of course, there were some more senior folks, but more experienced, not old, because I would never say that. But so like that just seems to kind of almost illustrate the fact that we were talking about the excitement in space, and it's something that it's cool to be part of again, because you're kind of talking when you're younger, space is cool. Yeah. And then it was kind of like this area where it was like almost like plateaued a little bit. Yeah. I feel like the excitement is coming back. Have you seen that? Maybe I was just in the closet.
No, we got a ton of energy, right? I mean, the tech's out on the floor. We've got the airmen who come out and who want to stay involved in the mission. They can get involved. This summer alone, I've got 33 interns from around the country who are jazzed about space, and they wanted to come work here at Lockheed Martin, and now they have a chance to build GPS. And I tell them, hey guys, no matter what you're doing this summer, you're building a future in space, and you're a part of it. And that'll make you excited, and you can just see them light up, and they're fired up and ready to go.
Yeah, if that doesn't get someone excited, I don't know what does.
That's right.
From an operations perspective, it's been great for the past 7 or 8 years that I've been in space to watch the environment fully evolve into space as a warfighting domain. And so if you look at GPS as an example, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, the operators that are operating GPS are primarily interested in keeping the trains on time, making sure that the system is working, handling any system anomalies, and doing routine updates and things like that. But GPS is actually a really good example, and so you were kind of talking to me, we were talking about it earlier, the evolution of GPS into being a tactically commandable weapon system that we can use to produce warfighting effects downrange. And I'll defer to the expert on maybe some of the system-specific commandable signals, but as an operator, not specifically a GPS guy, but as an operator, that's the type of stuff that makes me excited. Having a system that not just is providing an indelible capability to mankind, but having a warfighting system that we can execute effects from.
Yeah, no, I think it's exciting to see the evolution, right, from the operator sitting there being able to update time, to be able to get the signal on the ground. We're moving into an era where, we're using artificial intelligence and machine learning to support those operators on the floor so that they can go from running state of health to getting in and running the mission end.
I did an interview not too. I guess it feels like yesterday. It was a couple of years ago with it was TACP. He's a guy who kind of tells the bombs where to go, and he said when I have GPS, you're not going to beat me. Like, I will be the most lethal person on the battlefield, and it really kind of helps operationalize. You think if someone were to take that away from him, of course he would still be able to do. He'd make it work, but not just the ability of GPS to save lives too on the battlefield. He knows where everybody is. He knows where not to put things, where fratricide's the number one thing that they're trying to eliminate. Really, it's such a warfighting component. And then there's a whole nother aspect that goes along in space with the warfighting mentality. It's exciting stuff. What are you most excited about coming up? The future right now? What jazzes you up?
In the world of GPS, it's about bringing more effect. This is a multi-payload platform, so it basically means this satellite can do more than one thing at a time. We're bringing regional military spot beams so we can put power on the theater to give the troops on the ground even better signal, because there's lots of bad guys out there who are trying to jam and spoof. I mean, it's in the news all the time, right? Search and rescue. Everybody's had a friend in need at some point in time. We're going to put search and rescue on these vehicles. It's really just about seeing how GPS affects every aspect of society, both for the warfighter and then for our friends and family. It's changing the way we live every day. And so the more of these modernized systems we get on orbit, the safer we'll all be.
Well, yeah, before I got to space maybe about 3 years ago at Air Force Space Command. Before that, really had very little to do with it. And I used to just think, I knew GPS, I knew it was up there. I knew it helped me get from point A to point B. But Colonel Manner, he's one of our directors at the CAG for General Raymond, and he says, think deeper. You want money. What do? You go to an ATM. Well, that bounces off a satellite, was a precision timing and all that stuff. That you're not getting money out without that satellite. So it's scary to think, with the fact that this new satellite, new GPS, that it's more resilient to jamming and this and that, and it's thank God, because that, you want to mess with somebody, you say, hey, you can't use this, your Apple Pay,
Yeah.
What gets you excited, sir?
So as a space operator, the thing that I think gets me the most excited is the protect and defend mission that Air Force Space Command is starting to take on and is really starting to take shape. There's a lot of great guys in the community that are doing a lot of really solid work in this area, but that's what gets me excited. So it's one thing to have a constellation of GPS satellites that are producing all of these awesome effects. It's another thing to be able to, from a warfighting perspective, ask the question, how do we keep these satellites safe? Right. And not just GPS, but how do we keep military communication satellites safe? How do we keep intelligence and overhead persistent infrared missile warning systems safe? And you said it very well, sir. There's a lot of bad guys out there, and those bad guys are evolving their technology. And so we've got to, I think, do two things: evolve our technology in kind, and be better, smarter wielders of the technology and the systems that industry is providing us as operators, so that we can gain a tactical advantage through our gray matter, I guess you could say.
Right. Well, I thought for sure you were going to say, when I asked you what gets you excited, I thought you were going to say anytime the Giants are eliminated from the playoffs, so they don't have to play and get kryptonite for Boston or for New England and come Super Bowl time. But.
Yeah, well, so Boston teams winning championships, it's not really exciting anymore because it just happens so frequently. So
well played. All right, okay, all right. I set myself up for that one. So we're kind of winding down a little bit. Is there anything we haven't talked about that you want to maybe mention, or something we have talked about that you maybe just feel kind of inspired just to kind of foot stomp one more time? Sir, if you want to maybe lead us off on that.
Just appreciate you guys coming out. Appreciate you guys coming to talk to us. Like I said, it's the people who make up the mission team that build the GPS systems. It's a personal mission. It's something that we talk about with our friends, with our family. We get our kids excited. Even my kids know what GPS is, and they're excited to come look at the factory when we get to open up the factory for Bring Your Kids to Work Day. It's an important part of the national capability, and we're just really excited to be able to have you guys out, have people get to know what it does, what it means for your everyday life. So yeah, thank you guys.
That's awesome. Thanks for being here, sir. Thanks for having us. Yep.
Yeah, for my part, I think space systems such as GPS, and GPS is probably at the very forefront of this, but space systems is becoming a huge center of gravity for our American way of life. And as important as space has become, as important as space has become, and as important as it's moving into the future, again, there are those bad guys out there that want to take that advantage away from us and that want to be that destructive element in our way of life. And I think the operationalization of space as a warfighting domain and the awesome men and women I get to work with all the time as space operators who get up every day and think really hard about how to solve the problem of protecting America's access to space and our ability to operate in that environment. That, to me, is something I just want to foot stomp, and it's huge, and I get excited about working with all these great people. So, yeah, I know we're on a time limit, but I could talk about this for 6 hours every day, all day.
That seems to be a common trend when you talk to folks who, a lot of the folks I've talked to, they're passionate. They get this little twinkle in their eye when you start talking about the systems they work on, and it's fun. It's fun to be around. So I have one last question, and this is a question I've ended nearly every interview I've ever done. I just started doing this with a podcast, and I'm going to ask you this first, sir, because I asked you this 3 years ago when we did our little video story, and It's completely off the wall. So it's simple. What do you live your life by?
What do I live my life by? Yeah, it's a very simple question, but it also touches some very deep and profound things. So I live my life primarily by my faith. I think that's my first and primary driver. And in that, I feel like this space operations game is more than just a job that I do. I feel like it's in a very real sense, a calling from above in my life. And so in my life, I've been called to protect and defend America's access to space. And it's my contribution to our way of life, and it's my contribution to something important.
That's awesome. To the access to space in the heavens, some may say.
Yeah, there's a lot of really funny parallels we can make. I dig
I'm
it.
good. I can do all of them. There we go. How about you, sir? What do you live your life by? What's your theme song?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. So I think I resonate very much with kind of some of our key tenets here at Lockheed Martin, and that's do what's right. Do what's right by people. Do what's right for our customers. Do what's right for the warfighter. Respect others. This is a people game. It's people who are building the assets that you saw on the floor. It's people who are building the ground systems. It's people who are thinking of the technology. At the end of the day, this mission is all about people. It's how we treat each other. It's how we perform the mission and get each other across the finish line, our friends, our family, ourselves. That's huge. It can't just be about achieving the mission and leaving bodies in the wake. And then perform with excellence. We build these systems to be the best in the world, bar none. We are not satisfied with being second to any nation, especially in this area of PNT technology. So those are kind of the mantras we live by. We live with passion, and it's personal, and I'm excited that we get to share it. So.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you both for taking the time out of your day to talk to us. Thanks for hosting us, sir. This was a flat out just cool, awesome trip, and it makes me very lucky that I get paid to come out here and talk to you guys. So, well, this was a gorgeous building, and I'm glad we got to do this. So, well, that's it for this episode of Generation Space, where we got to sit down and talk to the payload and the folks making it happen for GPS 3. We look forward to you guys tuning into episode 4 again on this topic of GPS 3. So that's it. Thanks for joining us.
The Generation Space theme is by First Lieutenant Tyler Whiting. The audio recording for this episode was by Staff Sergeant J.T. Armstrong, and Jacob Mosolf did our audio editing. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share the podcast.
That's awesome.
They're fired up and ready to go.
Yeah. If that doesn't get someone excited, I don't know what does.
That's right.
GPS satellites that are producing all of these awesome effects.
Yeah, and look at you now. That's awesome.
It's really fun.
That's cool. Yeah, it's exciting stuff. That's awesome.
The awesome men and women I get to work with all the time.
That's awesome.
Wow. This is amazing. This is everything they promised.
Wow. That's awesome. That's awesome.